It started with just focusing on recruiting diverse talent. Instead of just recruiting diverse talent, we're now focused on retaining and developing and promoting that diverse talent. In the beginning, there weren't as many ERGs or employee resource groups or DEI committees. Now, not only are there committees, but they're being grounded to company objectives.
Joining me today is Dionna Sallis, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with Ferguson Partners. Now, you were on a panel here at REITworks focused on defining DEI targets and aligning metrics with business goals and priorities. What would you say is the biggest challenge that companies face in terms of defining the DEI targets that they want to achieve?
I would say one of the biggest challenges is riding the popularity wave instead of being grounded in their own intentionality. Like starting with why. Why is the work important? Why do you have these goals in place? Why are you moving forward with the business strategy of diversity, equity, and inclusion? When you start there, everything else can cascade in a stronger foundation. And it also prevents you from just riding what's popular, staying grounded to your company values.
And what are some of the critical steps that are needed to ensure that the DEI targets do align with the company's overall goals? And how important is that to the ultimate effectiveness of whatever the plan is?
I would say starting at the top. So starting with the executive and the CEO, the leadership buy-in of what's happening within an organization so that their core beliefs are cascaded through. What we're finding to be a challenge with some of those goals is that it gets frozen in the middle. So those middle managers, those that have direct reports and have their own business objectives that they need to achieve, also too carrying the torch of diversity, equity, and inclusion, it can get lost.
And how have you seen the tenor of conversations and strategies around DEI evolve over the last several years?
Oh, I think if we just look in the past 3 years, which we know 2020 was the accelerator for a lot of these efforts, it started with just focusing on recruiting diverse talent. Instead of just recruiting diverse talent, we're now focused on retaining and developing and promoting that diverse talent. In the beginning, there weren't as many ERGs or employee resource groups or DEI committees. Now, not only are there committees, but they're being grounded to company objectives. I'm coining that phrase DEI 2.0. So we're kind of elevating that approach. We already know what's working and what needs to be in place. But now, how do we take it another layer and to truly drive change?
And finally, in your opinion, what are the biggest challenges, whether they're real or perceived, that organizations face when striving to create a diverse and inclusive organization, and how can companies overcome them?
I think one of the biggest challenges that companies are facing are being afraid of the numbers. You know, sometimes we don't want to pull the data because we know it's bad. But in order to truly create a strategy that will drive change, we must start with the data. Even if it is bad, let's start there so we can create an approach. When I look at a DEI maturity model, every company is not going to go from a 1 to a 5. You don't need to. But moving a client or organization from a 1 to a 2 or even a 1 to a 3, that's growth. So staying true to where your organization is will help companies to not be overwhelmed and feel like everything needs to happen fast. After all, we're shifting historical norms. It's not going to happen overnight.